Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Empower Your Mind for Success podcast, a podcast for anyone who wants to build an entrepreneurial mindset. No solution can be created, no problem can be solved unless you have a sense of awareness. Once there was a weary traveler walking down a dusty road with a large boulder hoisted on one shoulder, a knapsack full of bricks on his back, a huge pumpkin precariously balanced on his head, and a nest of sturdy weeds and vines wound around his legs so that he could only take short hobbling steps. As you might imagine, this human pack horse was hobbling along, uncomfortably stooped over, his progress slow and tedious, his physical struggle great. A person sitting by the roadside called his hello and asked, "Say, traveler, why do you burden yourself with that big heavy rock on your shoulder?" Incredibly, the traveler said, I never noticed just how heavy it was before, and until you mentioned it, I hadn't given much thought to my reasons for taking it with me. After a few moments pondering, the traveler set the boulder down, left it by the side of the road, and walked on, a bit straighter, a bit quicker. A little further along, he encountered another bystander who queried him about the knapsack full of bricks. I'm glad you mentioned it, said the traveler. I really hadn't paid any attention to what was in the knapsack. He took out all the bricks, left them at the roadside, and walked on. A little further along, a curious child playing along the road called out to him and said, "Hey, mister, why do you have all those weeds wrapped around your legs?" The traveler took out his pocket knife and sliced away through the weeds. One by one, the bystanders made the traveler aware of his needless burdens. So one by one, he accepted the new awareness, rejected the old burdens, and abandoned them by the side of the road. Finally, he was truly a free man and walked straight and tall like such a man. Were his problems the boulder, the bricks, the weeds? Not at all. The one problem was his lack of awareness of them. I read this interesting fable in Psycho-Cybernetics book written by Dr. Maxwell Maltz and updated by Dan Kennedy recently. And it is a very interesting story, and I wanted to read it out to the listeners today to make a point about awareness. And the point is, the moral of the story is, unless you are aware that there is a problem, unless you are aware that there is a shortcoming, unless you are aware there is a weakness, you will never be able to correct or solve the problem. And this is very important from an entrepreneurial perspective. I mean, it is important in life in general, but very specifically for entrepreneurship, it is very important because, we have always mentioned, right? Failures are given in any entrepreneurial journey, but failures are not, to be absorbed and let them bear you down. Failures give you an opportunity to course correct, but you cannot course correct unless you are aware of those failures, unless you are aware that you need to take some other action, because that previous action that is resulting to a failure is not going to change its outcome unless you change its action. You got to be aware of it, right? If people think that you're snobbish, that you crack jokes that are not well received, unless you're aware of it, you're not going to change your action. You may think you are funny, but others may not think of it, right? And especially if you're hurting others, you should not worry about what others think about you usually. But if you're hurting others, then you got to be aware of it and course correct, right? In the same way, that is what we have to do in entrepreneurial journey. Now, how do you self-correct? How do you become aware of any issue, any challenge, any opportunity, so that you can then take action? So the first thing that you remember about this is intentionality, right? You got to remember the law of the universe. Energy flows where focus goes, right? So you have to focus, you have to be intentional about being self-aware. Self-awareness is a habit. And I will give you another example, right? So when you started learning how to drive, a a car, a truck, a jeep, you had to build a self-awareness about staying in the lane, always being aware of looking over your shoulder, trying to ensure there was nobody in your blind spot before you changed lanes, anticipating the car slightly ahead of you in the next lane, whether they would come in front of you and then adjust your speed accordingly. You have to build a certain kind of awareness to be a good driver, right? That same awareness has to be applied as an habit because you have to be intentional about self improvement. You have to be intentional to move forward. And genetically, humans are wired that way. Okay, so let me give an example. Trillions and trillions of years ago, when there were no humans, no plants, nothing, we were all a single cellular beings, right? There were only single cells that existed as organisms. These single cells, and this has been scientifically proven, by the way, that these single cells then wanted to grow and evolve into communities, and then they started aspiring and looking for how they could become multicellular communities, and slowly and slowly and slowly, the entire cellular biology and the cellular beings evolved. And now today humans are, a 50 trillion cell colony, right? We are made of 50 trillion cells or more, and we are a colony of that. But the base essence of every cell, when it was a single cell, was to grow into something bigger. Was a single cell was a goal striving entity, right? That is why humans today, we are genetically wired to strive for more. Unless we find our purpose, we do not really get happiness, right? Happiness, 15 seconds of fame, the happiness that is related to that is not long lasting. Happiness comes about when you have a purpose and you are continuously striving towards achieving it. And your purpose changes along the way as you grow older in your life based on what you have achieved and what you have not, right? So at a cellular level, at a genetic level, we are wired to strive more. So we are wired to improve ourselves. We are wired to improve our situation. We are wired to innovate. We are wired to make our lives easier and better, right? And the same thing applies with awareness, right? And because we are goal striving mechanisms, we need to be aware and be intentional. And that intentionality, that the setting goals will bring the ability of being aware of how you now need to focus on things that will help you get better, right? So having those goals, having that intention, having that focus allows you to be aware. Okay, you may have a habit of picking your nose, when you're watching television. Now you may not be aware of it, but there may be people sitting around you who will look at you and either not say anything, but if they are your friends, they will instantly remind you that what you're doing, right? So and then you get aware of it. Then when you are told about it, right, just in the fable that I spoke about at the beginning of this podcast, right, unless you are reminded of something or you're told of something, you may not realize what burdens you're carrying in your mind, in your heart. Someone 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago may have told you something that hurt you, and you're still carrying that burden with you. That burden is slowing you down. That burden is a negative thought that is not allowing your subconscious mind to create positive thoughts enough that will dilute this negative thought, right? So you have to be intentional and be aware of letting go of these burdens. Forgiveness is another one way of overcoming a burden that you may be carrying in your mind. Okay, so intentionality, focus, goal setting, these are all ways of building awareness. If we continue to live in a life of mediocrity, the 5-day, 2-day lifestyle, and we are happy with it and content with it, then there is no need for more improvement. Happiness at the end of the day is the ultimate pursuit, right? But of life. But if you are not content and you're striving for something, you're trying to achieve something, then you have to build that intentionality to become aware. And when you become intentional, you will develop the sense of awareness. like when you learn how to drive a car, like when you get a new job, right? When you get feedback about certain things that you might have done or you could have done better, then you become aware of it next time, and you self course correct yourself to ensure you don't make that same mistake again. But if you're not aware, nobody tells you, then you're going to continue making that same mistake. And that is why in an entrepreneurial journey, coaches become very, very helpful. You need to have a mindset coach, a success coach, a business coach, a mentor who's going to always help you identify the areas that you have challenges so that you can put solutions and plans around it to overcome them. See, speed is very important in entrepreneurial journey, and you can only accomplish speed by removing all the obstacles as quickly as possible. And the best way to remove obstacles is to find a coach. Can you achieve what you want to in life without a coach? Of course you can. You can continue to learn from the University of Hard Knocks and make progress, but that is not doing it in speed, right? Entrepreneurship achievement is one of the important attributes of successful entrepreneurship is speed, and you can never achieve speed without help, right? You can never achieve, and to receive help you need to be aware. To be aware, you need to be intentional. To be intentional, you need to have a goal or a purpose in life. That is the way you build a sense of awareness. I hope this helps you guys, right? So think about the story. Think about when you started driving, when you took up a new job, when you took up even a new skill that you wanted to learn, right? To become aware, you need to have intention. I hope this helps. I hope this provided value to you. And if it did, please share this with someone you believe will benefit from listening to this podcast. Thank you for listening, guys. And remember, you have unlimited potential. Own it. Until next time, take care.